Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Friday, April 20th, I believe. I hope I'm right with that. 21st, it looks like. Now, the month is flying away. Alec Busse joins us now from thehoosier.com. Not a lot going on, but a lot going on. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, I'm going to imagine, Alec, with IU basketball, because they're kind of in I don't want to say a panic mode after losing out on Chris Liedlam, but it wasn't. I don't know how good of a shot that they really had. I know that they went all in on him, but it was never seeming to lean toward Indiana.
Yeah, I think they lost a lot of momentum after his visit to Indiana. And like I said previously on the show, Jim, transfer recruitments are a lot different than high school recruitments. A lot of times in transfer recruitments, you really want to try and lock down a commitment shortly after a player visits a school. And you want to do that just because you want to be able to make sure you can get them before they go to the next place. Because players generally, I think, in the transfer portal have a better idea of what they're looking for or have a better understanding of the things that they're trying to find at their next destination. And I think when you allow a transfer recruitment to go on a little bit longer than you would maybe like to, in a lot of cases, it maybe doesn't go in your favor. So they lose Chris Ludlam to Tennessee. I had sources telling me that his visit down there went very, very well. He obviously enjoyed it enough to commit shortly after his visit to Tennessee. And then a little bit further, it just seems like Tennessee's coaching staff put in a ton of effort and really made Liedlam a huge priority for them. And props to Tennessee for bringing in a pretty good player. He averaged about I believe it was like 19 points and about 8.5 rebounds a game last season for Harvard. Not a prolific three-point shooter, but certainly someone who can step out and knock a couple down a game. And I would imagine that his percentages get a little bit better at the SEC level, just as he plays with more space. Assuming that Tennessee's offense is a little bit more competent this next upcoming season than it was this past season. But yeah, certainly a loss for Indiana and Mike Woodson. And I think they're, like you said, they're not at a point where they need to panic with some of their transfer portal targets coming off the board to other schools, whether that's Liedlam or L. Ellis going to Arkansas, or now even Cormac Ryan committing to North Carolina as of yesterday. So I don't think it's time to panic by any means, but it's certainly time to start to pivot and go to some other options that they maybe have identified, or just kind of keep waiting out guys who are declared for the NBA draft who obviously will have a decision to make if they want to stay in or return to college basketball. And I think the decision date for that is May 31st.
Fred points out that Missouri picked up Caleb Grill from Iowa State, along with they've got Tamar Bates, and Missouri doing a great job. There's other schools that are just kind of hitting it. And once again, I don't want to say Indiana. I'm not judging because I do not know what's going on behind the scenes at the moment and how it's going to end up. But and yes, I know that they picked up Khalil Ware, which was a nice pickup. But I don't know that he is as important of a pickup as what they still need in shooting, because what they still need is something they have needed for 8 consecutive seasons. And they've had what they picked up in Khalil, they already had, and they have had for those 8 seasons. This portion that has just been missing from the Indiana offense, from the Indiana attack, that shooter that Indiana has been known for decades. And yet there are so many of those in Indiana high school that end up at other places. And I'm just starting to wonder, is Indiana just chasing? Are they chasing the wrong guys sometimes? I know you don't get everybody, but when you really go all in on somebody, you're kind of running a risk again. And when you do that and fail again, this is not the first time. So it starts to put something in your mind. Okay, Indiana is just not getting the top guys. And yeah, I know that they have not won like Indiana used to win, but there's these other schools that have never won. and that are being able to accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. And I look at Indiana as someone that they were set up for NIL as far as returning to their former level of play. There's no other program that was probably set up to return better than Indiana because of the resources, because of there's no state that produces the talent that Indiana does, because of the NIL that they have set up with Hoosiers for Good that is very, very solid. And yet it's still a head scratcher.
Yeah, I think that transfer recruitments are really hard to kind of fully understand and maybe understand why players go to certain schools. And you mentioned NIL being a really big factor. That's no secret that NIL is a big deal in the recruitment of college players. And I think the best example of that might be Hunter Dickinson's transfer recruitment right now. From everything that I've kind of heard, it's essentially kind of just like a bidding war right now. And
It's a what?
it's a bidding war right now for Hunter Dickinson between Georgetown, Maryland, both of those schools being close to home. I've seen Kansas obviously be pretty involved. He's planning a visit to Kentucky. I think,
and if Maryland were to get him, that would to me make them the. And I've said I'm out of the prediction game, but if Maryland were to get Hunter Dickinson, to me that makes them the Big Ten favorite, de facto Big Ten favorite going into next year.